So, should we be having more babies?
Fall in love. Get married. Have more children than you can afford. Have insane amounts of kids. There's nothing the world can do to shake you if you do those simple steps and if you acknowledge that.
This video was supposed to come out yesterday, but obviously things happened and I wasn't able to post. However, I will be referencing this video here that I just made, which will be released at 2 o'clock this afternoon. This video here will probably come out right around 4 or 5. The thing is this here. The other day at Turning Point USA, some of the things that were said by Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk were kind of, a little bit eye-raising. Now, as a pro-lifer, you would think that I would be 100% on board with having more babies. Newsflash, I am. However, the thing is this right here. A lot of people are looking at this and saying, well, maybe there's an agenda here to counter yet another agenda. And that's what we're going to be discussing in this video. But before we go any further, I want to play the full clips back to back and just kind of give you guys my thoughts on exactly why they're doing this and simply ask the question, are they pure in what they are asking, meaning are they 100% absolutely genuine? Or is this an agenda to counter another agenda? So let's go ahead and watch it all the way through and we'll come back on the other end.
This is what it looks like to be unshakable, ladies and gentlemen. Let me explain that. Young men, we're just going to cut right to it. If you want to be an immovable mountain in your life, if you wish to be a strong alpha, I beg you, find a woman. Fall in love. Get married. Have more children than you can afford. Have insane amounts of kids. There's nothing the world can do to shake you if you do those simple steps and if you acknowledge that God loves you and has a purpose for your life. That's it.
Now, a couple other things that I want to make sure I mention. If you're a young person here and you say, boy, what do I want to do for my life? Honestly, you should get married as young as possible and have as many kids as possible. Period. Reject the siren song of modernity. Now, some parents are probably, I don't like that. They should basically, they should go get a job first. You're wrong. I'm sorry. Honestly. We are on the verge of a population collapse in this country. Every day, I receive emails from young women filled with regret in their late 30s. And they say, Charlie, I'm sobbing as I write this email because what you talk about on the show is exactly right. I have a couple college degrees. I have a great job and almost no debt. But I was told, to forego having a family. But now I'm looking around and I have a lot of cats and no kids. Honestly, where did we go wrong where we think that your bank account balance means more than passing down to the next generation? Where did we go wrong, everybody? So, I hope you meet your future soulmate. As I met Erica, the best decision I ever made in my life and the greatest blessing. And I hope you get married and have lots and lots of kids.
Now, guys, the one disagreement that I do have is with Charlie when he said getting married young. Now, here's the thing. You're probably going to say that's a complete, total contradiction and you probably should get married young. In today's society, it's a little bit harder to do, especially given everything that's going on in the world that we are currently inheriting. However, there's a lot of things I'm going to be saying in this video that may offset whatever criticism there may be of that, but still, there's going to be another video on that in the following year. It was something that I wanted to do for a while about the TradCon situation. It was a bit of a discussion, a bit of a back and forth that was going on between Ben Shapiro and Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit, but we'll talk more about that next year. The belief is that they want whites and more conservatives to have more kids. Now, here's the thing. As a conservative myself, I looked at the fatherly.com study. I even talked a little bit about it in this video that I did where Tim Pool was asking the exact same question, why fertility rates were low. And I'm also showing you guys some additional information. If you want to pause the video and actually look at it, you're seeing a fertility rate of 52.8% for whites. And of course, blacks and Hispanics fertility rates are a little bit higher. However, the thing is this here, blacks and Hispanics are actually, whites too, but it's really astonishing when you look at and I'm not saying this to insult anybody at all, because I've talked about this in several videos before, when you actually look at the black numbers, the abortion rate is through the roof. It's part of the reason why it is that when I talk about GRT, I'm using acronyms for these words. Don't worry, I know how YouTube's algorithm works. When I talk about GRT or BRT, it automatically comes to BRT rather than the overall GRT. The reason why is because the immigration crisis, the immigration situation, and of course I advise you guys watch the previous video that I did on this, which will come out at 2 o'clock, because what I've been saying about people getting sick, cold, winter, that's already started to happen. So make sure you guys watch that video. I've been saying that what's been going on is that they're really trying to replace one entire voting block, and many people think that they're actually trying to replace two. I have dabbled into the WRT side of it, like I said, using acronyms. And while it does look that way, a lot of it, quite frankly, gets counterbalanced, or at least it gets countered by basic common sense and good old-fashioned knowledge. Now, the birth rate is low, and it's a lot lower than it needs to be. However, citing the Fatherly.com study, you'll see that conservatives tend to have 2 kids per household, where liberals only have 1 child per household. But before we get to that, a lot of people, of course, are saying, and I understand why they may feel this way, that they feel that this little agenda is designed to counter yet another agenda, which we'll talk about here soon. But I think the overall goal with this is to try to promote an actual, a culture of life itself, which quite frankly needs to be promoted. I get it, we want to ban abortion, all that type of stuff, but here's the deal. If we're just saying ban abortion without actually promoting a life culture, and I understand that the world that we're living in is a much, much harder world to live in as far as overall economy, yet at the same time, it's also easier to live in when you consider the overall access to stuff, and not to mention the fact that where you are living at, chances are you probably have access to heat and probably electricity. A lot of countries out there do not have access to that, and of course they continue to have higher birth rates than the United States. The last thing you want to do is be like Russia, who for the very, very longest time had an extremely low birth rate, and they were trying to combat all the men and women that they had lost during World War II and during Stalin's purges and all that type of stuff that, quite frankly, oftentimes gets overlooked in history. The last thing you want to do is be like China. China had this a documentary on China called One Child Nation that is currently on Amazon Prime. I understand that if you watch that, you may get grossed out, but still at the same time, if you want to do some actual true research on it, I advise you guys go check it out. It's on free for Amazon Prime. Go give it a look, so that way you guys can see exactly what it is that China did to themselves. They are now officially trying to catch back up on all the people that they have killed over the years. In China, you were only allowed to have 1 child per family, and now they've moved that up because they see the type of conundrum that situation obviously created. The United States had always had a relatively high birth rate for a very long time because traditional families were in fact producing kids. And ever since 1996, conservative households have been producing 2 children per 1 liberal household. Now, we all know the real reasons why this is the case. And also, to go on top of this, there's all this indoctrination that's been going on, that's been aimed at our kids in schools. And I've talked about this in previous videos. I think I may mention it in the next segment because I'm recording this very late. But the thing is this right here. You want to have a relatively solid birth rate for sustainable growth. That's what we're really and truly looking at. But especially given the fact that we got one ethnicity who has a relatively high birth rate, but yet they abort their children at an extremely high birth rate, it's kind of counterproductive in the overall scheme of things. Fact of the matter is, we need to be producing more children, and quite frankly, we do need to have a much more thorough and much more pervasive pro-life culture. I don't know if you guys are kind of picking up on it or not, but if anything is to blame here, it's probably the overall culture itself. It does, in fact, need to change, and we are in a culture war, but we'll save that for another video. I also made videos on this before, asking the question, why is it that they're coming after our kids with the pride stuff? Why are they coming after our kids? Why are they trying to indoctrinate? Well, that's the real reason why. Liberal women are not having children, and liberal men are not having children. Obviously, men and women both have to have them because you can't, I don't want to get banned off YouTube, but I'm pretty sure you guys know where I'm going with this. The fact of the matter is they're not producing enough children. And to go on top of this, going back to that black abortion rate, you've also got an extremely high murder rate as well in that community. So as high as the fertility rate is, and it's still relatively low compared to previous years and previous decades, it seems to me that one group is, let's just say, taking advantage of another group, or one group's being used to take advantage of another group to basically supplant it. But then you get to whites. And a lot of people think that that right there is the overall grand scheme. Well, let's watch this little montage first of all the Democrat politicians mentioning this and exactly what their goal behind this is. And I'll come back on the other end and tell you why it is. It's not exactly working out the way they thought it was going to go.
In a few years, we're going to be a majority brown country. White people will not be the majority in the country anymore.
This will be the first generation ever in American history in which whites will be a minority of the generation at some point.
As of 2007, every year, babies being born in this country, whites now are the minority.
In 2044, everyone is going to be a minority.
As the demographics change, as white people become the minority in the country, which is coming.
Demographics is destiny.
Demographics is destiny.
Demographics is destiny, right? The country is changing.
I've been saying it here. Other people have been saying it here for years now, even before Donald Trump. The demographics is destiny.
The white population is declining for the first time in history in America, while the number of multiracial Americans
be announcing that we're calling the 38 electoral votes of Texas for the Democratic nominee for president. It's changing. It's going to become a purple state and then a blue state because of the demographics, because of the population growth.
The growth in Texas has been almost entirely driven by non-white population growth, mostly by Hispanic and Latino population growth.
The idea that whites will not be the majority, I mean, it's an exciting transformation of the country. It's an exciting evolution and progress of our country in many different ways.
The white population is declining. It was always on the upswing. So that speaks to the beautiful diversity of America. It speaks to how that population the demographics will weigh in politically.
I believe anybody who echoes a replacement is to blame, not for this particular crime, but it's for no purpose except profit and or political benefit.
Now, before I tell you why it won't go the way it is that these politicians want it to go, let me mention something about the Julian Castro comment about Texas. That was back in 2012, 2013 timeframe that Democrats thought they were going to turn the state of Texas red. Now, I don't live in Texas. However, there's been a lot of information coming out of Texas which, quite frankly, contradicts all of this man's takes. For example, in 2020, it's true that Donald Trump won that state by less votes than he did in 2016, but he got more overall votes. And a lot of that is because a lot of people from the Midwest were actually leaving the Midwest and going to Texas. Now, granted, there's a lot of Californians also moving to Texas too, and the belief is that it's all a bunch of liberals. However, when you actually get to the voter registration data, it turns out that about half of the people leaving California going to Texas are in fact voting Republican. There was also a demographic shift at the southern section of the country, right there at the border, meaning that Hispanics are also turning to the right. And to go on top of this, you also have Tejanas. Now, I'm not going to get too far into Tejanas, but if you are Tejana, please say something in the comment section. They experience this shift to the right too. So a lot of the information that the Democratic Party is throwing at you when it comes to the state of Texas possibly turning blue, it's getting counteracted a lot like I'm about to completely counteract what these politicians have been saying. So what these politicians are doing is they are trying to take advantage of the demographic shift in the country. Now, let me use an example so that way you guys can kind of see where I'm going at, because obviously this video is purely political in overall scope. If you go to NBC Swaying the Election, which is actually a pretty good model for predicting election results, if you go in there, you'll see demographic like white, college-educated white, black, you'll see Hispanic, you'll see other, which is where they include Asian, Jewish, Middle Eastern. That's where they actually include that section at. And you just tinker with the overall percentages, you will see that Republican vote share, if they were to get, say, 11% of the black vote, it actually doesn't flip any states. It really doesn't. But if you turn to 18%, the most it flips is the state of Georgia. If you change it to 25%, the most it does is flip Georgia and Virginia. Basically, what we're trying to say is that while it's nice to have a lot more black voters, it's only helping to flip maybe 1 to 2 states, which of course is important. I'm thinking this on the electoral basis. So a lot of people are already wondering right off the bat, okay, then why is this such a big deal if you're only being able to flip 1 to 2 states? Well, the thing is this right here. The thing that you have to understand going forward about this is that when they say demographic change, they are also noticing that the black vote, while very, very loyal to them, is not exactly helping them out in the long term. It's not getting them any additional states. The current GOP frontrunner, who, by the way, was just removed from the ballot in the state of Colorado, whom, by the way, will then be put back on the ballot because once it gets to SCOTUS, it'll be overturned. They try to use the 14th Amendment, but 18 other cases have come forward on that, and they've all failed. This was a good old-fashioned outlier case. I wanted to make a separate video on that, but a lot of people much, much smarter than me have talked about that, and I don't want to just be repeating what a lot of people are already saying because for the most part, it's pretty well common sense. What I'm saying to you is that they're seeing that this particular voter demographic is starting to run out. They're also seeing it begin to shift to the right. So what they're doing is they're wanting to replace this with people who are coming from much, much more left-leaning nations, which is one of the main reasons why it is that they are importing more Hispanics. The overall goal behind this was to bring in more Hispanics and then pass immigration reform under the guise that they would have the United States Senate, or they would take care of some rhinos or get some rhinos to help them pass this. However, the House itself shifted, and they're kind of stuck in limbo on this issue. That, of course, does not stop them from, putting them on airplanes and sending them across the country.
The Phoenix airport right now, I'm waiting to board my flight to New York, to JFK, and it looks like we have a whole lot of migrants who are also boarding this flight that the U.S. taxpayers are paying for. This is what the U.S. taxpayers are paying for right here. Premium seats on Delta that they have people coming here. We're paying for this, shipping them out to New York City because guess what? Everywhere else is at capacity. So they have these sanctuary cities like New York that they're now shipping these migrants to that we're all paying.
That was Ashley St. Clair. I used that clip in the previous video the exact same way that I'm about to use this one. This also doesn't stop Democrat mayors from blaming the governor of Texas for what's actually going on in his city. Let me run this for you.
The issue is not just how we respond in the city of Chicago, it's the fact that we have a governor, an elected official in the state of Texas that is placing families on buses without shoes, cold, wet, tired, hungry, afraid, traumatized, and then they come to the city of Chicago where we have homelessness, we have mental health clinics that have been shut down and closed. You have people who are seeking employment.
And many people, of course, have decided to also, at the exact same time, forget to mention that it's actually the Biden administration that's allowing this to occur. So whatever their GRT scheme is obviously being figured out by people. They're starting to see that this right here is actually affecting, let's just say, non-whites a lot more than it is actually affecting whites themselves. But still, does that mean that we should have more babies? Yes, we should. We should all be having more babies. White, black, Hispanic, we should all be doing this. If anything, we need to be promoting a culture of a life. Now, I understand that somebody's probably going to say, oh, wait a minute, Claymore's probably going to contradict his own personal views here in a second. No, I'm not. If anything, I'm about to double down on them. Recently, the topic of abortion has came up. It came up more and more and more in special elections. And of course, even some states that might appear to be red have basically voted to basically keep abortion pretty much. I think it was like the state of Ohio, for example, decided to make an actual constitutional amendment. Ohio is not really a conservative state. It's more of a Trumpian state. It's a protectionist state. It actually loves the former president because of his views on protectionism. So it's a much more Trumpian state than it is a social conservative state. Of course, if you're from Ohio, please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get your thoughts on this. The thing is this right here. Republicans tend to get killed on the ballot when it comes to the topic of abortion. One of the things that a lot of people will say if you're very pro-life is that they'll say, no, you're just pro-birth. No, we're all pro-life. However, we need to view this more from a standpoint of, how do I say, non-politically, meaning that we need to actually be 100% genuine about this. So when people decide to raise hell because former President Trump decided to come out against a 6-week ban, I think that let's just say I think that the backlash that was given was a little bit unwarranted when you look at the overall scope. Yes, I'm saying it was a little bit unwarranted from a strategic point of view. Republicans constantly lose on the issue of abortion, and one would think that Republicans are once again just being pro-birth. No. We're being pro-life in this case, meaning that we want to produce more life and have more life to precede us. We also want to raise them right, which is also the most important thing when it comes to parenting. As a matter of fact, it's one of the biggest reasons why it is. We got idiots out there like Neon and that Jack dude, whatever his name is, out there antagonizing the little crap out of people in their everyday lives and trying to use it to go live and break 1 million views. Or like in the case of the streamer in Virginia who got shot when he decided he wanted to roll up on a delivery guy. Fact of the matter is, parents aren't doing their jobs, and quite frankly, parents do need to do their jobs. Now, I can already hear somebody say, well, you're not a parent, so quite frankly, you don't need to comment on this. No, but I've had several kids that quite frankly would have been viewed as potential stepchildren and also nieces, nephews, cousins. I've been around children my entire life. And don't worry, I will have kids someday. As a matter of fact, I want to go ahead and say this now. There was an article that came out in the New York Post, and another article that came out in Yahoo, it was Yahoo News, of women in their 30s, their late 30s, regretting not having any kids because they felt betrayed by, and they now feel betrayed by feminism. Men, on the other hand, when they reach their late 30s and 40s, hell, if they want to, even in their 80s and 90s, if they can still get it up, can start a family right away. It's ill advised, but obviously they can still do so. Also, something else too. If you start a family late as a man, it gives you additional incentive to take your butt to the gym, work out, keep yourself in great physical shape, so that way you can stick around long enough to see your children grow up. So there may actually be something rewarding if you go that route. But back to this immigration ordeal. So basically the idea is that they think they are replacing the largest actual ethnicity in the country. And it's true that whites have gone down in overall percentage. However, the overall rate of birth versus death, while it's not exactly desirable, it could always be a lot worse. Whereas if you look at the black population, and I only bring this up because I care, they've actually shrunk in overall size and overall percentage. What I mean by size is overall people itself. Hispanics obviously is growing. So it looks like what you're possibly looking at is a temporary shortfall for white people, bringing them down to 60%, only to see them rise to probably something like 64 or 65, and Hispanics eventually to rise to 21, where if we keep going down the road that we are going, by the time we get to 2030, the black population, instead of it being 12%, it could very, very well find itself at 10 or below. That is very sad, especially given the sad state of our country, and you have blue state and blue city Dems to partially blame for that. However, I do think that Republicans need to do a better job of messaging to that particular group. But this also brings me back to the whole pro-life thing. You see, we need to actually be promoting an actual culture of being pro-life, not just banning abortion. While I do want to see it gone, I do think we need to do a better job of actually promoting life itself. And I think it's very possible that that right there may be what Benny and Charlie are really truly trying to say. So, yes, I do believe that we do need to be having more children as a country. And, of course, we need to stop with this whole rampant feminism crap, which, of course, I did not really address in this video, but I did address the fact that liberals are having less kids. And the main reason why this is the case is because they oftentimes want to abort their children and not have any form of responsibility. We'll get more into that in the future videos, but it's almost like what Jesse Waters had said a while back. When a woman gets married, she begins to shift herself further to the right. So to all the men out there, you can't be scared to walk up to a woman and have a conversation. Yes, there are some that are completely loony and bat crap crazy, but given the fact that 2/3 of men are not getting laid or even in a relationship, I think you guys need to get out there and physically try to get a hold of a woman, even though the percentages right now don't appear to be on your side. Trust me, if you actually try, put yourself together, you will find the right one. It will take some effort, and you will have to own your craft and own your game. But trust me, you will eventually find the right one. So don't be bitter. Just go ahead and kind of look up and think to yourself, I can make this work. And, of course, at the same time, this right here should be your overall goal for your overall legacy is trying to create a family and have children. I'm working on that myself. Trust me, you are not the only one out there, and you are not alone. With that right there being said, guys, let me go ahead and halt this video now. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. We're probably going to be coming back to this issue again tomorrow to talk more about the agenda itself in much, much further detail, especially as far as election purposes is concerned, because we got a guy out there who's running his mouth about the situation. And also at the exact same time, he's coming up with his own theories, and I need to kind of counter that. And also to go on top of that, there will also be the video out on Vivek Ramaswamy and why it is that the establishment views him as such a threat. That will also be coming out tomorrow as well. So please make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. Let's make the channel grow. Please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. I'll see you guys later.